The Cold War. What exactly happened? Well, it's a war, quote unquote, war. But it's more of a confrontation, an indirect confrontation between two countries with two different ideas that were in disagreement and fought little wars in other countries. Indirect wars, to be more specific. And that's basically what the Cold War is in really basic standards: indirect wars. And while the two main thoughts were between the USSR and the US, it was fought in different parts of the world, like Korea, Afghanistan, and Cuba. Cuba was in the middle of a revolution when the Cold War happened. Citizens fighting for their place in the government, and dictatorship kind of being placed. And the Russians saw this as an opportunity to send their missiles inside of Cuba. This is more complicated than just agreeing with the Cubans and sending their missiles there pointing at Florida. It goes deeper than all of that. There's socialism involved, politics, death, revolutions, and believe it or not, a lot of confrontation from the US that even till this day, the US does not have a good relationship with the Cubans. They were affected socially, politically, and socially. And what else can I say? But it's all the Cold War's fault. The UNDP, or the United Nations Development Program, works in close alliances with local national authorities to promote the sustainable development of the Cuban nation in a context where food security, decentralization, energy efficiency, and the use of renewable energy seeks an economic with great capabilities of efficiency, exportation, and substitution of imports to preserve the welfare of the people. Likewise, it supports the process of economic decentralization and the empower of local actors for economic managers based on the potential and capabilities of the territory. My personal belief towards the SDGs in general, I feel like it's a good idea that's striving to do good things. I don't quite agree with the methods the UN is going for to achieve or gain these goals. I wouldn't exactly say they're bad. They're doing their best, and by all means don't say that they're horrible. They're actually achieving stuff. They have helped a lot of percentage of people. Countries are starting to be more open-minded and have more developed now than in the past years because of the UN. Does the UN have favoritisms to the United States and England and France? Yes, but I mean, that's obvious. It was created, or their father nations were them after the World War II, so it really shouldn't be a surprise when you see this agency working throughout the world, and yet they're hypocrites because they still rather help USA economy by not canceling the sales of guns or weapons in general. I also think that, or I believe, and I'm a true believer that if we want to grow a society, we must learn from history and actually know what factors led us to certain periods of times. Knowledge of history help us in life, and I believe that SDGs combined with the knowledge of history will help us be better human beings, because for us to not commit the same mistakes as done in the past, we must know how or what we did to follow to that certain period of time in where war happened, and how to not do that again. So by learning what our ancestors did in the past and the support of the SDGs, we could help not do that again. And I feel like the SDGs are doing a great job on that, because For example, in the example of Cuba, they're trying to help them develop a better economy. They are trying to create more of a social standard culture. They want health to be better. They want the studies or the education in general to be better. And if I don't know the context of what happened in Cuban history that leads to the UN helping them now, then I wouldn't understand, oh, but Cuba isn't a developed country. Shouldn't they already have all of the things we have as a country? And I feel like knowing things like that in history will help you not only understand the S.D.G, but also know that other countries suffered more throughout history than your own country. And I don't feel like S.D.Gs are getting a lot of popularity throughout the youngsters of my generation. I feel like that's because a lot of us, we think about ourselves. We live in a generation of bubbleness and uninclusion, even though we are the most expanded generation ever, and we are so open and we're able to communicate with people all around the world in just seconds. And yet we don't do anything about it. We still think about ourselves. We stay in our closed-minded countries, and we only think about our personal health, even though people around our own country or even our community are suffering more than we do. And I feel like for me to get more interested in the SDGs and for my generation to get invested more in the SDGs, I feel like the UN should approach a marketing more not only externally of what the world is happening, but what will happen to your generation in the future and the children of your generations. So if they tell us this is what will happen if we don't stop world hunger, the middle-aged class will decrease and people in extreme poverty will increase. They should be direct with us, because we are a really direct generation, and at least here in Mexico, we like things being said in our face, all overall with no filtration. And I feel like that's a great way for me to get more invested, because I want to know what will happen if I don't start doing it now, and what will happen to my kids if I don't stop or start helping now to countries that are not, or the entire planet as well.